you ever felt like you're fighting against time to get allergy meals on the table? Like your family constantly needs to eat, and ensuring that meals are safe and ready on time can be a constant source of anxiety, especially for us families with limited diets. Today, I'm sharing a couple of game changers that help me transform the chaotic, stressful process of preparing allergy-friendly meals into a smooth and enjoyable routine. So if you're ready for calm and efficiency instead of stress and more time with your family while also preparing safe and delicious meals, let's get to it. Hey food allergy mama, if you're here, you've likely experienced the scary and lonely food allergy diagnosis with your child. Unfortunately, food allergy parents aren't taught how to navigate the food allergy lifestyle, and it's easy to feel alone and discouraged sometimes. But I'm here to show you that food allergy life doesn't have to feel restrictive, scary, or isolated. I'm Corinna, and I'm a 17-year food allergy mom and food allergy coach at Friendly Pantry Consulting. I specialize in making food allergy life safer and less worrisome for food allergy families like yours. I'm not perfect, but over 17 years, I've learned a lot the hard way, and I'm sharing the secrets and resources you won't hear anywhere else that will help you feel confident living with food allergies faster and easier than I did. From introducing allergens, travel, navigating school, and educating friends and family, this podcast will give you the essential tips and strategies you need to help your food allergy child and family thrive. Welcome to the show. I've been where you might be today, and in fact, I may have cycled back to this recently. So in this episode, I'm talking to myself here too. But it was a few years ago when I was fumbling with dinner times and mostly getting through by constantly searching for allergy-friendly products. It was a constant struggle to make dinner, and when we found something new, we would have it over and over and over again because I was afraid of trying new things. I was feeding my food allergy family, but I was also losing my sanity in the meantime. It was actually draining me to my very core. For me, getting allergy-friendly meals on the tables felt like a weight on my shoulders, and I was constantly thinking about food. I was burnt out and frustrated. I knew my family deserved more than what I was making, but I just couldn't get myself to do anything different. I was in a deep rut. I dreaded thinking about dinner time, yet they never stopped coming, surprise, surprise, and day in and day out, my family needed to eat. And as I mentioned, I got those meals on the tables, but I was not proud of them. And I didn't enjoy what we were eating, and I had no desire to cook. I began to despise the kitchen and spending time there. Then something happened that really broke the camel's back. My daughter's allergist immunologist asked us to remove gluten from her diet. Now, he was hoping that we could start introducing certain nuts by doing this because he thought she had an intolerance, and it turned out that she did. I was elated because the thought of beating the nut allergy was amazing, but that meant removing another thing from her diet. And our diet. Anybody who has multiple food allergies knows that it means figuring out a new normal all over again. Needless to say, the weight of feeding my family became even heavier. I knew something had to change, and I couldn't provide my family with what they needed without making some drastic changes. I began to do 3 things that changed my life forever. And I know you're excited to hear what they are, so let's get into those 3 things now. Tip number 1 is to start meal planning. So I knew I needed to take a break from cooking and actually just thinking about food. So I started to figure out how to plan intentionally so I could give myself that mental break consistently. I created a simple routine where I would intentionally rotate meals so it would decrease the amount of times I would have to find new recipes and find new products, but we'd still have loads of variety. I actually explain this process, and it's very simple and easy. It's in episode number 24. If you haven't listened yet, or you just want a quick refresher, go listen to that episode after this one. But in short, I learned the best way to plan so I didn't have to go back to the grocery store more than once a week. And I learned how to become efficient when I was cooking, so I wasn't in the kitchen all the time. Now, don't get me wrong, I did not think that meal planning would work for me. I used to think it would take a lot of time, it wasn't worth the effort, but all that changed when I learned that if you're purposeful in your planning, it does not have to take forever. Being purposeful means not just quickly jotting down what you're going to make that week and losing it the next week, but instead you want to plan so that you have less work another day. An example of this is to use an actual meal planning sheet or a template so that you can reuse that template or plan over and over. So now you're going to keep it and you're going to refer back to it and you're going to use it as it is, or you can help plan a new menu based on what you liked and you didn't like. Using a template like this is how you plan with purpose, and it's so much easier and more helpful for you. I actually talk about how important templates are for many, many parts of food allergy life, from birthday parties and play dates to navigating school and of course meal planning. And I talk about it in episode number 6. If you haven't checked that episode out, go back and listen to it because it is priceless. Tip number 2 is to cook with simple whole ingredients. So this can seem like it's the opposite of easy, because isn't it just easier to put a pre-made meal in the oven rather than cooking yourself? Not necessarily when you have food allergies. When my daughter was diagnosed with gluten intolerance, in addition to peanut and tree nut allergies, I started to see that either peanut, tree nuts, or gluten were in everything. And it reminded me of when my oldest still had her milk and egg allergies, which is also in everything. So what I'm talking about here works for all allergies. To be honest, I was really frustrated. It felt like there were so few products that she could eat, which is when I realized that maybe I should just get rid of prepackaged food altogether. I mean, less processed is better for you, and you don't have to spend hours reading labels on those items. Once I figured this out, I was unstoppable. Not only that, but as I was on this journey, I was figuring out that there is really great ways to substitute allergens with whole, simple ingredients. For example, did you know that creamed avocado and lemon works great as a substitute for sour cream? The cool thing is that when you substitute allergens with simple ingredients instead of those expensive specialty products like vegan sour cream, you know that you won't have to search high and low for those simple ingredients. They're going to be at the regular grocery store in the regular area. Now, I'm not saying you should never get vegan sour cream because it is helpful, but if you're out and you just can't get to that specialty store or the grocery store, these options are usually less expensive and easy too. You know that grocery store is going to carry that simple ingredient all the time, and you don't even have to find the specialty aisle to get it. There are examples of substitution like this for many allergens. How awesome is that? But let's get back to that story I was telling. Now that I was going to get rid of prepackaged foods, I started to teach myself what I needed to know so I could create meals from scratch. Now, I know what you're saying, Corinna. I do not want to create meals from scratch, and I don't think I ever could anyway. So why would you tell me this? Well, I just want you to know that I started by revamping old recipes that we couldn't eat before. It was quite simple by just adding those simple foods and replacing the allergens to start. I also at that time started working with clients through my business, Friendly Pantry Consulting, and many of my clients needed to remove lots of allergens, which helped me to kind of get better at this. Now, I don't offer this service anymore, but at that point, I would experiment with creating recipes for them, and I got really good at replacing allergens with simple foods. I even wrote an allergy-friendly cookbook for the top 9 allergens plus gluten called the Weeknight Allergy Buster. And guys, I cannot believe that I was able to write a whole recipe book. I have no formal training. I'm just a home cook with ideas that I tested on my family and friends. And then, just to be sure, I tested the recipes with 40 other food allergy families too. I compiled all the feedback so that I could make changes and ensure each recipe was the best that it can be. And honestly, this is when I felt like I really found my groove. Now, I'm not telling you that you have to write a recipe book, but what I'm saying is that when you start playing with simple ingredients, it creates a lot of inspiration and momentum. And if you keep going, you're going to be able to change almost any recipe you like into something that's allergy friendly for your family. And this leads me to tip number 3, which is to take action to get motivated. So I used to feel like I needed some sort of superpower motivation to do any kind of meal planning or cooking. But then I realized that motivation comes from my actions and not just from thin air. Okay, what do I mean by this? Back when I was feeling stuck just after my daughter was diagnosed with gluten intolerance, I realized that I was finding my safe spot in the 5 recipes I knew my kids would eat, and I got stuck there. I kept making the same thing over and over because I felt security in those meals. But in doing that, I got myself deeper and deeper into a rut of being bored, not only with the food, but with actually cooking the food. The weight on my shoulders kept getting heavier and heavier, not only because I was the sole cook of our family, but because I didn't like what I was making. There was no creativity or enjoyment in eating what I was making or in the process of making it. Because of that, I was becoming less and less motivated. So I learned that I needed to take action. So I started to look for ways that I would feel inspired again and that I would actually enjoy the food that I'm making. And sometimes this means that you're not necessarily making kid food. And yes, I'm doing air quotes as I say that because I think we sometimes think that just because we have kids, we are forced to feed them chicken fingers, chicken nuggets, and all of this. And yes, it's something that's usually more popular for them, but sometimes we just need to break out of that a little bit and give them something that is more adult-like and give us that pleasure as well and introduce them to something that's new and different. That's what worked for me, but I think it's important to just ask yourself the question, what is going to make you more inspired with food? What action do you need to take so that you're more excited to be in the kitchen and to get things on the table in an allergy-friendly way without all that extra weight? Okay, so you might be wondering, how do I start? You're saying, great, I want that, but then you go on with your day and forget that you ever heard this episode. But I want to challenge you to more. So start this week by picking your family's favorite meals. This is your first meal plan. Then, just getting you started gives you that motivation to keep going. As I mentioned, action creates motivation. If you want to see how meal planning can work for you without doing it on your own to start, check out my Done For You meal plan and training bundle called 90-Minute Variety Booster. With this bundle, you're going to get that weeknight allergy buster that I talked about earlier, that recipe ebook that I created and got tested with all of those other food allergy families. You're going to get easy meal and side ideas that have little to no label reading. You're going to get a list of whole ingredients that can be used to substitute milk and eggs. And you're even going to get baking and cooking without eggs and milk troubleshooting guides. The 90-Minute Variety Booster is going to give you a ton of easy action items so you can get motivated to start and keep going. You do not have to struggle one more day. Head over to the link in the show notes to get started. I hope this episode is super helpful so that you can get allergy meals on the table without stress or sacrificing variety. Let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram at Friendly Pantry. I'd love to know how you get allergy meals on the table fast without sacrificing safety or variety. Thanks for listening, and bye for now. Before you go, Mama, if you love this episode and want deeper support, head over to friendlypantry.com to see how we can partner together to keep your food allergy child safer and worry less. There's no need for wasting time searching all over Instagram, TikTok, and the web to get the practical knowledge you need for your family. While you're there, grab your free Food Allergy Kids Empowerment Guide or the newly diagnosed checklist today. Topics are not medical advice and are the opinions, views, and property of Friendly Pantry Consulting Incorporated. All rights reserved. Always contact your board-certified allergist immunologist for health advice.